Hi, welcome to this video today. I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to connect with you earlier in the earlier video, and it's always good to find out how you're experiencing drawing and the 5-pencil method. And there was so many wonderful things that it gives us a chance to connect on. I'm here with Jeremy of the 5-pencil method team.
Thank you, Daryl. Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm glad we can do this.
It was so good to hear the feedback in that it told us how you're experiencing your drawing, the emotional things that go on with losing yourself in your drawing and having that wonderful satisfaction and being able to provide a piece of art for someone, and then some of the technical aspects. We're going to get into one of the questions we didn't have a chance to do last week, and I'll let Jeremy go ahead and not only give you a recap, but introduce that question as well.
Right. We kind of left you hanging last time, but it was great to hear your comments and get some feedback on the video. And Daryl is going to answer that question we left hanging. We posed the question, how do you get the different skin textures, or how do you show the nuances in skin texture, whether it be wrinkles, freckles, dimples, whatever it may be. And so Daryl's going to answer a few questions about that. But first, I kind of want to recap what happened in the first video for those who missed it, just so you know what you're missing. And so first, we shared some of the results from the survey that we sent out to you guys, and you had so much great stuff to say that we felt we had to share it with you. And as we were going through those results, we realized there were 3 pretty common trends. And so we asked, what is it you enjoy about the portrait drawing process? And a huge group said that they just enjoyed the satisfaction of it, whether that be the satisfaction they get from watching an image appear on a blank piece of paper and with nothing but a pencil, and or just the satisfaction you get from seeing someone's face when you give them a portrait that you've drawn for them, maybe of them. And another large group was really excited about the creative process of portrait drawing, whether that be just, some people said it was almost pain relieving. They could sit down and forget about their pain or forget about stress and the struggle of the day. And so that was really cool to see. And then the third group, and this was the question we covered last time, was they really enjoyed drawing a personality. They like to know that they could sit down with a pencil and paper and draw the person they want to draw. Not just some generic face or some generic body. They could draw the unique details and features that make that person who they are. So it was really cool to hear. We shared some quotes from that survey and shared what you said. And so we also Daryl demonstrated what it takes to show personality in a drawing. He showed you the features to look for, the unique angles, the things that make that person shine. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the first video, you can actually go back and watch it right in the right-hand column next to the video. Just click on the first video and it'll take you right there. But let's go ahead and get to some of Daryl's insight. I'm going to ask some questions that actually came from you guys, from the survey, and referring to the topic today, and that's skin, nuance, texture. And so the first question, Daryl, kind of refers about color. And the question is, I want to know how to get different skin colors. For example, a Swedish person compared to an African American person. Can you talk a little bit on that subject?
Yeah, I think that it might be surprising if you really stop and think about it. We probably have a little more value than what we think we do. Let me just go ahead and go to the overhead camera for a second here, and I just want to let you know that when we are drawing something on a piece of paper, and I think I just demonstrated this the other night in the studio class, but when I'm initially putting something on the paper, what it contrasts with makes all the difference in the world. So I'm using a 4H, and I'm just creating a value here and a gradation, and it looks like it's quite dark on here. And yet, the reason it looks dark is because it's just contrasting with the white of the paper, so to speak. And for me to get a true sense of how dark it actually is, I need to be able to have something darker. So I'm going to jump to my 4B, which I usually would not do. But once I get this on here, I'm going to start seeing that 4H in its true value compared to this new one that I'm putting down. And you'll see that it almost disappears. This is one reason why I actually like to start not only with that 4H, creating a foundation, because what happens when you start creating values with a specific pencil that's darker is it has a lot of grain to it. Let me just zoom in here quickly and show you the difference. The smoothness is going to be from my harder pencils. The softer it gets, the grainier it gets. And so if I'm using just the pure pencil with nothing underneath of it, every time I go to a softer pencil, it's going to show more texture. And, of course, texture can be smooth or it can be a grainy texture, something a little rougher like this. But this is taking advantage of the natural texture of the paper, the tooth. And it really becomes a great advantage because I have this wide range of textures depending on which pencil I'm using, how much pressure I'm using, and deciding that maybe this one is enough to demonstrate what I need, or maybe the 2H is enough. If I need to go a little darker, I don't want to go too dark because I always want to have a contour or a curve. And so the barrel exercise is one of those things that help us understand how light works and gives us the opportunity to maintain contour and make sure we have something in all the areas, because if we leave something blank and it's just absolutely white, then we're not going to have any dimension, curve. It's just going to be flat. And so when we go through these different exercises, such as the sphere, we find out that if we put value in here, we can still contour this. I know this is a print, it doesn't really come across real well, but this gives us a chance to have a sense that this is round, that it's reflecting light differently as we go around the sphere. And we do the same thing when we're working with a face. What we want to be able to do is have an opportunity to have everything contoured. And the way we keep this from looking too dark, even though this is a fair-skinned little boy, we want to make sure that we have something darker within our drawing that helps us be able to put this in relationship so we don't just see this contrasting with white paper. That's one of the secrets to being able to make a person of a different ethnic base, like a black man here. This helps us be able to not go too far because we just decided, well, the dark pencil is just the ticket because he's a black man. No, maybe the features and all the different things that are interesting aspects of the drawing are going to be enough to tell me this is a black man, and I don't have to go too far with my values so that they go flat on the other end. I can either have something entirely too light and nothing in an area and it'll be flat, or I can end up by going so dark that I have no longer any opportunity to make it contoured. So I like to be able to start off lighter, not think about the fact he's a black man, not try to achieve that right off, get rid of that mentality and concentrate on the features and his ethnic look. And so then I can gradually build the values and I get to just the right place and I can say that's enough. It's communicating it real well. So some of those things are ways that you might answer that. I might be able to answer that question, a Swedish person compared to an African American person. It's all about contrast. It's all about being able to build your values until you're at just the right place and accomplishing not only a smooth texture for something like this, but to have something that has a little more texture from the tooth with something like the black man here. Let's just go zoom in on that real quick. I keep going the opposite way. Sorry about that. But you can see that there's a texture in here. Now, I can also just doodle around in here and emphasize a few things. Maybe it has some age spots or variations in his skin, and I can go ahead and accentuate something. Maybe there's already a little bit of a variation there because of the texture of the paper, but it gives me something to start with and keeps it from becoming baby soft smooth. And yet if I want that, I can certainly do that because I can create a very soft texture. It's knowing what pencils to use, being able to understand what values you're going to be able to get out of each grade of pencil, and then knowing how to combine them after that. So the free lessons are great for that, and I think I've gone over it quite a few times. So I'm anxious to have you maybe have the experience to go through those lessons and gain that confidence, so you don't have to worry about, well, what am I going to do to achieve this or that. So I hope that maybe helps just a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, those two examples you shared, I think, work really well with this next question, and you kind of covered it. But how do you use those principles to show the difference between the ages, like so between maybe an old man and a young boy?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just take a contrast here again. And here is an old man with, not only variations in his skin color-wise, value-wise, but he also has wrinkles. One of the things that is really important is to understand that, let's just get out here a little bit more so we can see that when I see a contour here, I want to make sure I keep it a contour. I must understand that if I can see in and out of it, it's going to be a gradation, and I'm going to see soft edges on both sides. Sometimes it's a little concentrated, but I think one of the things that happens with children, especially and babies, is we end up by making this too definite, too much of an edge to value, let's say, or a line even representing it, because we see something there and we don't realize that with value we can show the contour and the depth of it, but we don't have to show a hard, clean edge. When we show a clean edge, it's when there's something being hidden from our view, such as this, the edge of the face, and then I'm showing the hand coming out from underneath of it and from behind it, and or when we have something going around and out of our sight, so we end up with a clean edge. These are really important things to get straight in our minds, because when we're doing wrinkles like this, I don't want to just demonstrate this with I keep going the opposite way, with a clean line, because the clean line is going to just make a crack. Now I realize some of these wrinkles are kind of severe maybe, but also I want to understand what way my light is coming so that I can show the highlighted side of a contour, and then if there is something that's deep enough that shows that it's going into a place where we can't see, then I can go ahead and maybe create a little bit of a clean edge, but often it's still a contour. It's basically the same thing as this, but we have to understand that in a concentrated way, we're going to come up over and we're going to have an apex, or we're going to go deeper into a place, and it's going to get darker as it goes farther away from the light. And if we keep our light direction straight and we understand the difference between clean edges to value and contours, we're going to be able to show the difference between these two subjects, and it's going to come across great. We have the option of being able to do either one without any hesitation, without any fear, and it just comes from knowing the basic fundamentals, the solid principles of light, and utilizing your differences between, again, the clean edges and the contours and your values. So I hope that helps.
That's great information. Very good information. And I have another question for you. This one's more about layering when drawing skin. And the question is, I have a really difficult time knowing how much graphite to put down in the early stages of getting the skin tone. So, based on your nearly 50 years of drawing experience, what have you learned about that?
Well, this fundamentals apply again. I want to be able to build again a gradation from the darkest places in a drawing. So when I am, let me find this one again. I just put it aside. Let me go back to this one again. I want to maintain the difference between the darker parts and the lightest parts. But if I go all the way across, I'm going to probably have a harder time demonstrating a range of value, and I'm probably going to be tempted to try and jump in with darker pencils. So what I like to do is build it up gradually, not try to go all the way across. I will create this from my one edge. If, let's just say this is a forehead, I'm going to want to try to reach into that by always fading away, though. Even though I see that I'm going to have more value out here, I want to get there gradually. So I'm going to lay this foundation, and I'm going to let it fade away. This is where the sphere exercise comes in really handy, even though the patches have also helped us accomplish this. This is a really important part of it, because I don't have to get all the way to the center of the cheek or the side of the cheek all at once. I can always start from a darker place and fade it away, and then I'll come in with the next pencil and I'll start increasing the value so that I don't press too hard and I don't start mashing down the texture and the tooth of the paper, and start embedding the graphite into the paper tooth. And this allows me to be able to even take something off if I want to. But I also have an opportunity to just get a feel for how dark I want to go. So I'll take this and I'll increase this a little bit more with my next grade of pencil, if that's the case. Fade that away, and that gives me a chance to now take my original one, my 4H, and go farther into the lighter area. And remember, I always want to have value in the lighter areas, otherwise it's going to be flat. I want to be able to contour everything. So when I have a sphere, or I have this little boy, I know that this area is going to be contoured. There's a subtle difference between this and this part. There's a subtle difference between this part and this part. But that helps me be able to say this is contoured, and my mind will pick it up, it'll read it perfectly, and I don't have to worry about just coloring in a space and then trying to do something with it later. I always have a sense initially that I'm creating contour, because even if this is white for a while, until I finally reach into those spaces, until I finally get into the area that I still have blank, I will have a sense that this is fading into that area. So then I have the next one. The sphere exercise is excellent for this, because this helps me now to come back in with the next value. And it's a pencil that has the appropriate value. It is the same pressure, though. I don't change the pressure. And there's a range of pressure that will help you get a gradation. And then I take this one and I reach a little further with my 2H. And then I can take my initial pencil and I can go ahead and reach even further into that lighter area with my 4H. Now this is very quick. It's not refined perfectly, but it helps you understand how in the world I'm going to get value in here, and make sure that I'm not doing it in a way that, again, creates something too quickly. I have a chance to assess it. I know it seems like it takes time, but I find it's just really useful for me to not even go too far if I don't have to. Sometimes things will happen a lot quicker than you may think. So anyway, that's the principle. The lessons will give you a whole lot more information on how to do it. And I think the outcome is, worth the effort. And also, it gives me a chance to stop, not necessarily keep going like I might have had I just got in here quickly and started putting values on the paper. I want to know that, wow, that looks good just where it is. I can stop. I don't have to go that much darker. And so in many ways, it actually speeds things up and takes away that question in my mind. And I don't have to, decide way ahead of time what something is going to look like. I can see it happening and make those decisions as I go.
Very good, very good. And I wanted to cover one more thing, something we heard a lot about in the responses. And it's some people, they want to use a tortillion or something to smear the value and spread it like that quickly. But they realize that doesn't give them the realistic results they're after. Why is that happening? What makes that happen?
Because we're undoing the natural texture of the paper. That tooth is such a wonderful advantage. Not only does it help you scrape the lead off and transfer it from the pencil to the paper, but it can be utilized with something that has more texture or something that has less. Let me just show you. If I wanted to be able to put a texture on here and I had a darker pencil I wanted to put over, let's go ahead and just see what would happen. This is not that smooth, but if I wanted to go ahead now and utilize the tooth of the paper, I could maybe use more of the side of my pencil. Most of the time, I'm going to be able to accomplish more texture, like I said, when I'm doing, let's see if we can find that again. You can see how the softer pencils create more texture, and it becomes more and more obvious the darker you go. But I can go ahead and create maybe the felt of a hat or something that is maybe a sweater or something that is going to be much more textured by just knowing how I can take advantage of that tooth. If it's too smooth, I'm going to have something that's going to be so slick after a while that the pencil lead won't even adhere to it, and it'll start skidding over the surface of the paper. And so there I miss a wonderful opportunity, to be able to have better values, maybe some darker, richer values that I want later, because the pencil will actually still adhere to the paper instead of being so shiny and slick that I don't get anything on there. I find I just have a wider range of values. Then I can come back in and I can actually make something quite a bit darker, making sure that I still continue my gradation in most cases, depending on whether I have something that is supposed to have an edge to be separated from something else. And now I can go ahead and still, by only using so much pressure, utilize that texture of the paper. And if I were to bear down, I would be creating something that is minus all that texture. But I can create somewhat the same thing by just layering it on carefully, and I can get it off if I want to. So this will come off, this probably is not going to. And when I'm using tortillions and I'm smearing it around, it ends up by burnishing it into the paper and knocking down this wonderful tooth that helps you create these textures. And it also starts working it into the texture of the paper, into the tooth. And as you mash over the tooth, then it ends up by embedding it in there, and you can't get it off as well. That's why it's so difficult to get this off. And I want to be able to make changes as I go. So there's many reasons why the tortillion, I think, just gives what, like you said, an artificial slick look, almost like a wax figure. Or you can have the wonderful array of textures by creating layers. And when you want to go ahead and do this a little smoother, you can actually go back in and blend it in using the appropriate texture, the pressure, and you can actually blend this in and make it smoother. I can do a car fender just fine by building up my layers instead of trying to do it all at once like this, because I always want to make changes. I love that opportunity to stay in control and to be able to accomplish what I want.
Great. It's kind of encouraging to know that you can use your paper and pencils to create some of that texture. You don't have to draw every little pore and every little crevice and crack. And that's pretty encouraging. But one objection that I've heard from quite a few people is that they don't want to start drawing because the materials cost too much. It's too expensive for them to start, so they don't want to get involved. What do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I feel that the pencil and the paper are probably the cheapest ways you can get into art. Sure, there's probably some simple methods you could do for technique and not getting too many different colors of paint, mixing your paints so that you don't have to worry about a lot of different variations in hues. But the pencil is wonderful because even with pressure, I can go ahead and create different values. And it's usually something that's not too expensive. I know that this paper that I recommend is, pretty ideal, but it's also considered kind of a student grade, a mid-range paper. So there are papers that get extremely expensive, and yet this one does everything we want, and it's quite economical. Now I realize that doesn't do you any good if you don't have the money, but you can usually find some paper. I remember people used to bring me paper to draw on when I was a kid. I didn't have anything. My folks couldn't afford materials, and I just drew on anything that people gave me. But it also gave me an opportunity to learn how to compensate when I had different textures of paper and different softnesses. Some paper erases well, some doesn't. One reason why I like the 300 series is because it erases quite well, where some papers may frizz up. Some may, just smear when you try to erase it. And I think the minimal amount of tools I would imagine is in pencil drawing. But you could have an eraser, you can have a pencil. Naturally, if you can get more pencils, that's why I cut it down to only 5. It's called the 5 pencil method because there's like 20 different grades of graphite pencils, or just short of that. And then there's different charcoal and what's the other one? Anyway, there's a lot of different choices you could make, but you could get 5 pencils and get the full range of value that you need. An eraser, and you could work on some other paper. I would suggest you don't just work on copy paper and notebook paper because it's really not going to give you the opportunity to experience the textures and the values that you might get if you have some good art paper. But this is really quite economical, and this has always been a consideration of mine. How can I make sure that everybody possible can get into it without being shut out because of the cost? So anyway, doing the best I can to try and help you. And also, you don't have to experiment a lot because you know exactly what to buy instead of buying a lot of things and hoping that you might test them all out. That gets really expensive as well. So hope that helps you a little bit.
Great. Well, what about the time that it takes? Just watching your demonstrations, it seems like it could be a pretty time-intensive hobby.
Well, like we talked about in the last video, I enjoy the experience. If I know how to achieve something, it doesn't seem to take as long either. If I'm worried about what the outcome's going to be, and I'm starting to get concerned because I just have no idea where I'm going, that takes longer as well. And so it seems like it takes longer. But when you know what you're doing and you have the confidence in your materials and your procedure, then you can get lost in your artwork. Now, it sure is going to take a little longer if you're going to do, or maybe a lot longer, depending on how much effort you want to put into it, if you're going to draw something realistic. Because it does take time to build up values and to get the detail, but everybody admires the ones that are really detailed. You can also do a very simple drawing and not have all that detail, not have as much. Minimalist is like that, where they concentrate on maybe some of the features and let the rest go to a sketch or maybe be quite a bit less. And so there's just so many ways to interpret a drawing that you can tailor make it to your own desires and what you want to achieve. And I just think there's a lot of opportunity to not only cut down on the time or have the challenge of seeing if you can accomplish something, and just take whatever time that you are comfortable with and achieve that.
All right, very good. A lot of great information there. And we've got a little more information we want to cover, but we're going to save it for the third video. And in the third video, Daryl, I think we can talk about realism. What is realism? What does it take to achieve it? But like I said, we'll go ahead and save that for the third video.
Yeah, that's great, Jeremy. I look forward to the next one, and I hope that this is helping you out there. And I hope you've learned something, and it gives us, again, an opportunity to find out what your questions are, where some of your needs are, so that we can try to best fill that with the videos and some of these opportunities to explain a few things. And look forward to seeing you in the next video. And so thanks again for joining.
Yeah, and again, just like last video, we really encourage you to leave comments. If there was something that really struck you from this video and you just want to let us know about it, or if you have some questions, you'd like some clarification, whatever it may be, you can ask your questions in the comments section right below this video. And we'll take a look at those and see what we can cover in the next video.
Yeah, we sure look forward to it. We'll see you next time in the next video.